next band is Porcupine Tree.
Porcupine Tree. Steven Wilson's, the band that got Steven Wilson popular.
Porcupine Tree is great. It's dark music. Dark music is phenomenal.
Progressive.
But still really hits home with a lot of different audiences, you know. The thing about progressive bands is they can't be too, you know, tooting their own horns with the musicianship. Otherwise, they lose a lot in, you know, songwriting and musicality. Porcupine Tree never really did. All their stuff is great. We recommend the albums that occurred after the drummer Gavin Harrison joined, which are from In Absentia to their final album, The Incident.
That's 2007, I believe, 2006.
I mean, you'll find it.
No, 2010. Yeah, they ended in 2010. That's
In any
right.
case, this band is...
Yeah, hopefully they'll reunite, but Steven Wilson's been having a successful solo career. We're not as into that, but
props
we
to
still
him.
respect him a lot as a musician following his muse, so hopefully Porcupine Tree will reunite.
Alright, next we have the Rolling Stones. The Rolling Stones are kind of like the Beatles, but not really. Many say that the Beatles were kind of like the...
They're the flip side of the coin to the Beatles.
Exactly.
You know?
Many
They were
say
kind of like
Beatles
the
were like
bad boy version of the Beatles.
People said the
in their
Beatles
time.
were like the good guys. Oh, she'll be home by 9, sir.
Yeah.
And, you know, but that wasn't really true. Perhaps in the image, but in the music, things were a lot different. The Rolling Stones had a lot more of a lighthearted feel with a lot of their music. And a lot of it comes through a lot of perseverance through very dark times, such as one in the studio for some of their albums, such as, Exile on Main Street. Keith Richards would be dealing with problems with drug abuse. And when overcoming them, because of realizing that the music is more important,
It's a little known fact. Mick Jagger came to Keith Richards and said, "Listen, dude, the music's suffering." And Keith Richards was like, "Well, I'm done with heroin then." And it's like Keith Richards, the poster child for drug use, put the music first, and that's why the Stones are so great. Is their attitude towards the craft of music is uncompromising, and they're still around. I mean, you know, they're old and they're putting out albums and whatever you think of that, but they're still doing it because that's what they do. And how could you not be influenced by that? Plus, I just love Mick Jagger's voice. I love the way that he sings. I just feel it. I don't know. I had to say that.
All right. Next, we have the wonders of improvisation. So, improvisation is influential because you find things that you already knew that you didn't know that you already knew. And this is valuable.
Yeah, we like to not know what we're going to do sometimes. We've written a few new songs since we did this episode, and it was like, what are we going to do? And we just started playing. And it came out, and it was honest, and it was in the moment, and it was, we ended up liking a lot of it, and it's been really cool to discover this new collaboration that is infused with some improvisation. So
next is one of our favorite bands of all time, who I will guarantee you none of you knew before we made an episode about it, and perhaps none of you really checked them out anyways, but that's going to change, we hope.
Hopefully.
This band is called Teehee, T-E apostrophe. So they're a Japanese post-rock band, which
post-rock.
That in itself is kind of a weird
instrumental.
What's that mean?
Like if you took a perfect circle and just took the vocals away,
and maybe put them like 20 years into the future, I guess.
There's that's kind of post-rockish, you know. It's
still very raw and rock and roll,
some
you know.
cool mellow guitar that's just real spacey and cool. Post-rock is a really cool style. But
I can't begin to describe Teehee and their excellence.
Their live shows are that's up there with any other band. It's our fantasy to warm them up at some point. Hopefully, we'll be able to do that one day.
That'd be absolutely great. Our original video on them got taken out for copyright because we used their music.
Yeah.
That was a mistake.
Yeah.
We are so sorry. We did not We did not think that
We
through
just
at all.
wanted to share it with people.
Yeah, because when you say, yeah, you know that one song with, like 27 words in the
Yeah.
title, that one,
Yeah. They do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's... But anyways, besides all that, check them out. Their stuff's on YouTube, it's on Spotify, it's on wherever you may want to find it.
Teehee apostrophe from Japan.
Of course, we have separate influence videos about all these bands if you're interested in any more of that, by the way, which we highly recommend that one because we go a little more in depth onto why they're so great. Anyways, the next sort of idea that we had was a bunch of lists of ranking all of our favorite bands, and
we would just say go
musicians.
watch that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of these things,
we're probably going to skip over.
they were more exercises in futility, and we did them because we really thought it'd be interesting to say, what if I had to narrow it down, what would I narrow it down to? So some of these things, it really makes you evaluate that you can like two different bands and think that you like them the same amount, but maybe like them the same amount in different ways, you know? And so these types of things...
Yeah, we had a conversation about that, about keyboard players. It's like, okay, I can tell you who I think is the best, but then I can tell you who I would want in our band.
Exactly.
And so those are two different guys, you know?
And we wanted to kind of explore this idea just to, just to see, and just to share it with all of you, just to share it with all of you guys, how we feel about all this
And it
stuff.
starts a little dialogue with you, that a lot of you shared your lists, and that was really cool too. And it was cool to see where we lined up as well.
All right, next we had our little happy birthday to Jimmy Page video.
Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin.
So we kind of touched on Led Zeppelin, but just a few seconds longer. Jimmy Page is kind of the mastermind behind Led Zeppelin. For those of you who were not aware, he was originally in a band called the Yardbirds and needed a kind of a band to finish up the last few gigs. After that was done and he had this band, he said, oh, this is actually kind of cool, isn't it? So he kept that going, and ta-da, rock and roll is invented.
He deserves more credit because he was Led Zeppelin's producer.
Yes.
So the Beatles had George Martin, Michael Jackson had Quincy Jones, Rush had Terry Brown, Led Zeppelin had Jimmy Page.
Innovator in the studio, innovator with tone and musicianship, innovator of rock and roll. I mean, what more can a single
And
man
he's
do?
still out there, he's still alive. I love that man.
I as well. The next episode we have is one on a TV show titled Black Mirror.
Black Mirror. It's the modern day Twilight Zone, and I would never dream of saying that unless it was 100% true.
This show is worth all the appraisal it gets. It is absolutely phenomenal, and like a lot of this stuff on our list, it's very dark.
Yeah, it's quintessential. Like it really involves modern society in the not too distant future.
Perhaps
like,
20,
we are
30
right
years.
on the cusp of a lot of these things, and the moral tales that they tell that concern technology and interaction in the technological age and the age of social media.
All these things.
You can watch all of the episodes in one sitting, probably.
It doesn't become science fantasy, more so it becomes truly science, non-fiction.
Science potential, science probability. Yeah, and Black Mirror, just do yourself a favor and watch all of them. And real quick, you can start anywhere. You don't have to start with the first one.
In fact, we recommend
don't start with the first one because you'll probably turn it off. It's hard to get through, but that one's still great.
Start with the second episode of the first season.
Just go.
There you go.
Go through the descriptions and find what looks good to you, and eventually you'll get through them all.
All right, next we have an episode that we did on songwriting. So we kind of covered this with improvisation, but songwriting, we just wanted to stress that we don't really have a process, and we just kind of get down our ideas whenever inspiration
There's
strikes.
a lot of ways to write a song. Sometimes it's lyrics first, sometimes it's a bass line, sometimes, hey, check this drum beat out, sometimes you're playing on the guitar, sometimes it's just a feeling.
Whatever the method
Sometimes
is.
we're playing together and we come up with something.
We would like to stress, don't ever limit yourself to saying, oh, that doesn't really fit the process. Let me apply this to my my process.
Yeah.
I mean, if it requires that you make a whole nother process, there you go.
Yeah, sometimes you can switch instruments with your bandmates, and that'll spark some great ideas that you wouldn't have thought of. There's a million ways to do it, no right or wrong way.
All right, next we have the Police.
The Police.
The Police, they're great. Stuart Copeland is one of the best drummers ever. He is a composer as well, and
does a lot of movie soundtracks, television soundtracks, really successful as a soundtrack guy. But in the Police, any one of their albums, they're all great.
Redefined drumming, actually.
Yeah.
He took a bunch of different genres, jazz, reggae, punk, and he applied all of these things to this one style of drumming, and whatever it is, it's great.
Yeah.
I have mad respect for Stuart Copeland, and one of my favorite quotes that he ever said is, once he stopped trying to get all of his musical ideas out through only his drumming, he found that he was a lot more satisfied playing the drums. You know, he had gotten all of his musical ideas and his creativity out through more practical means, composition and other instruments, so he could sit back down at the kit and not have to worry about his identity.
Yeah, he's my favorite drummer too.
He started when he was like 7 on jazz music and kind of got tired of it.
But he's well rounded by Sting and Andy Summers in that band. That they were 3 great musicians who said, let's not put musicianship first, let's put the songs first and the energy first. And coming at it from a real different approach of kind of like a punk rock reggae thing that just, with pop, that just exploded. They were the most popular band in the 80s, the most popular rock band in the 80s probably.
And bass players that sing are of course up there on my list of influences. In fact, I think most of the bass players that I really admire at least do some harmony, but hey.
Yeah, you just go start with their first album and listen through all of them, because
they're all great.
They're all great, and you can hear the evolution. It's
yeah. All right, next we have Ozzy, which quite similar to Black Sabbath.
Ozzy and Randy Rhoads,
but not Black Sabbath.
Yeah, this is.
And we should mention that this is with Randy Rhoads only.
Yes, the first 2 Ozzy albums.
Not to discredit the later albums, but come on.
Yeah, I have no problem discrediting. I'm not a fan. I'm a fan of Ozzy's first 2 albums.
Yeah, I was really just trying not to start controversy, but I'm going to agree with you on that one. I think those first 2 Ozzy albums are really
It was a tragedy when Randy wrote it. He was struck down far too early in his career, and it would have been amazing to see where Ozzy's solo work would have gone. Those first 2 albums are flawless. They're perfect. Those first 2 Ozzy albums are perfect.
In the 80s, there was a lot of neoclassical going on. Even, Yngwie Malmsteen being the biggest example. But lots of people that played shred guitar were very influenced by a lot of classical music, and you can hear it in a lot of that, a lot of shred music, a lot of, 80s metal. Even things totally outside metal, like Jaco Pastorius, a jazz fusion bass player, was influenced by classical music in this time period. However, despite all these people being influenced by this type of music, I still think Randy Rhoads pulled it off the best in the short amount of time that he had. So,
he was kind of the guy that really brought it to the forefront of metal as well.
I think he bridged the gap more so than anybody else. I mean, like I always say, when you're arguing about something, you can always stress the farthest points to one side to people that already agree with you. But if you really want to change people's minds, sometimes you got to pull more towards the middle and get a best of both worlds type of feel. And I believe that's really what Randy Rhoads accomplished perfectly. Next, we have a short message about transcending your influences. So perhaps I say, man, I really just want to be Randy Rhoads. There's no real problem with that. I suppose lots of people would like to be Randy Rhoads, but the fact of the matter is you can't do that.
Yeah, it was, I'm paraphrasing, but Miles Davis, the great jazz musician, legend, said, we first imitate and then we...
reciprocate. That's not the right... I don't think that's even really a word. But it just rhymes, whatever.
Then we innovate.
Yeah, that's that one.
We transcend our influences. We go it's like, okay, here, this gets you in the game, this gets you into music, but then how do you say, I want to find my own voice?
Doing cover gigs helps out with this a lot, you know, learning songs that you're a big fan of. To any people that say, no, I don't learn any songs, man, that's just not my music. Stop it. Stop it now. You are only hurting yourself. Learning songs is not selling any part of yourself short. If you hear a song and you say, man, I like that, learn it. Do it. It'll help you. You'll
Plus,
be able
you
to
know,
take the parts of that you like and fully understand
allow
them.
yourself to do it how you want to do it. You know, it's good to learn and to say, okay, what is this guy doing, and figuring it out. But then you want to kind of take it to another level and say, how do I want to express this myself, where I can get my own voice and my own approach.
One of my favorite quotes from one of my favorite people on this planet, really, at least in a musical sense, who we did not do an influences episode on because I'd be a little strange, is Adam Neely. I have mad respect for this person. He is a music educator on the internet. He's got a great YouTube channel. It's a phenomenal musician's channel, I suppose. Anyways, main point is he had a quote that was, your goal should never be to become a virtuoso, excuse me. Your goal should only be to express the musical ideas that you wish to express. And anybody that tries to become a virtuoso will most likely fail.
Yeah, that's the thing about it. If you're really searching, you're really trying things out that you're hearing in your head, you're going to come across something, wow, I can't play this. And so
that is what will push you to get better.
That's what pushes you to get better. And yeah, Adam Neely is definitely worth checking out. Yeah.
More so for musicians than none, but hey, you can gain plenty of things.
Indeed.
So the next is a band that I'd like to touch on very quick, titled the Aural Cigarettes. So they were originally a Red Hot Chili Peppers cover band in Japan. They then evolved to become a sort of pop-ish rock band that got a lot of notoriety from creating the opening song to a very popular animated TV series titled Noragami. Anyways, that's not important. What is important, however, is that their music is very accessible and it's very pop-based, but it's not pop music. The things that people don't like about pop music are acknowledged in this type of music. It all sounds the same. All of these songs sound different. It's not musically complicated enough. It all just sounds the same within the song. You won't have that problem either. All of their music is very accessible, but not in a lazy way, in a very calculated way. They have plenty of musical ideas, but it doesn't sound like cacophony. It all sounds like different parts in a story. And they all come after one another in a specific order because that's the way it's supposed to go, beginning, middle, end. Or perhaps not, but all these parts still occur in the song, and it all makes sense anyways. So
Zach played me these guys, and I was blown away. I was like, how can you pack that many ideas into one song and have it work like that? And they're a very exciting band, very now sounding band.
They also prioritize having a lot of energy before lots of other things, which is quintessential. You need to do this. I mean, every great band has had energy, at least within rock and roll. So
Indeed.
I'd recommend their first album, but really most of the stuff that they've put out is worth checking out if you're into rock or kind of more pop rock type music.
Indeed.
All right, now a band that I believe you would like to take the wheel on, or a artist I should say, and then perhaps a band later. Tori Amos.
Tori Amos, huge fan, seen her a bunch of times throughout the years. She is one of my favorite singers, musicians in the world. I especially love her stuff when she had a band with her. I love the musicians. The drummer, Matt Chamberlain, is one of my favorites. She just moves me to tears. I love her music, love her voice, love her piano playing. I can't geek out enough. Now, she's one of these artists that the songs I love, they're among my favorite things. The songs I don't like, I don't like. She's a very polarizing artist. But I still respect the overall thing that she doesn't care who likes what. She's doing what she wants. Her set lists every night are different. She plays what she wants, when she wants, and how she wants, and she doesn't have the. I saw her and Alanis Morissette together one year, and Alanis Morissette had a much bigger support at the concert, but it was no contest to me. It was like you have this pop star, and then you've got this true artist, and it really spoke to me about artistry is undervalued in the pop world. That's a whole other thing, but Tori Amos is true artist to me, true craftsman of a musician. Yeah.
Next artist that we have is, or band I should say, is Genesis / Peter Gabriel.
Yeah. 4 albums, like Nursery Crime, Foxtrot, Selling England by the Pound, and The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. Those are all that's needed. If you like the Phil Collins Genesis, that's a whole other band. They might as well just call it Phil Collins Genesis, or just call it Phil Collins. But the Peter Gabriel era, when Phil Collins was just the drummer, that's all you need.
And Peter Gabriel's solo stuff, the album So, very big album.
Us, Up, and then he has some other albums that are all called Peter Gabriel with different covers. One of the most important artists in the world, I think.
Genesis, if you were not totally aware, is a band similar to Yes.
Yeah, progressive rock.
70s progressive rock.
Peter Gabriel was the most influential guy with the frontman thing. He would come out in costumes and stuff.
Their songs always told a great story.
Yeah, he had these really quirky, weird stories that he would tell that. You could tell, well, this guy just has a brain that's all his own, but very smart guy all the same, very humanitarian. He's always doing some kind of charitable cause through his music, and one of the best artists out there, in my opinion.
All right, nearing the end here, we have one last musician based influence, and that is Marillion.
Yeah, there's a lot of controversy about Marillion. I was a big fan of Marillion from '82 to '87, those 5 years when Marillion had the singer Fish. After that, they got a guy named Steve Hogarth that they still continue on to this day, and a lot of the fans that go to see them now are fans of that lineup, and I think that's a really good lineup, and they got some really good stuff. I look forward to even diving a bit deeper into it than I have, because I'm more the Fish era. Fish was just so influential to me as a frontman and a singer, and especially as a lyricist. Again, another guy, I don't write lyrics like that, but just to read how good somebody can be, it's inspiring. How can you not be influenced by something that is of that kind of quality? You wanna see some lyrics, like read the lyrics to Misplaced Childhood or Clutching at Straws. It will blow your mind, or any of the Marillion albums for that matter. It'll blow your mind how good of a writer he is. So,
final influence that we have today on this massive recap, it's about an hour long.
Yeah.
Stanley Kubrick, which we did very, very recently, but just in case, we'll cover it here. Stanley Kubrick is a director, and he's directed movies that you have definitely heard of. The Shining, Full Metal Jacket,
2001: Space Odyssey,
Clockwork Orange,
Dr. Strangelove, Eyes Wide Shut,
and many more.
Yep.
These being the quintessential films that you should see. Quintessential this, quintessential that. However, these are very important films.
He's regarded even by Steven Spielberg as the best director who ever lived. Maybe second only to Alfred Hitchcock, or that's a
something important to note about Stanley Kubrick is that his movies are not too easy to get into right away. Even Steven Spielberg has said that they do require a little bit more work put in by the audience, giving them more than one watch through.
Most people would say, myself included, if you watch a Stanley Kubrick movie once, you might not like it. You probably won't. But then you'll watch it again, you'll say, wait.
You'll notice more and more, and it'll all start coming together, and it's a great thing. And his movies are absolutely phenomenal.
His process was so
much
painstaking. The research that he would do, it's why he only put out about 13 or something like that movies, and from the 50s all the way to the 2000s.
Very much like Tool, exploring every single option before deciding on something.
Yeah, very, very, that influences us greatly. So, well, as you see, with just this smattering of bands and influences and movies and books and such, there's so much more ground to cover, and we're going to try to do that in a wider format. We've talked about podcasts.
Yeah, we're going to have to see exactly what we do, but you can rest assured it will come in more practical manners than this.
Yeah, these things can tend to be a little bit long to watch, but maybe
YouTube can also eat up a bunch of battery life, so we'll see if we can make some of these episodes into podcasts soon. Maybe not anytime soon, but eventually.
So we welcome your ideas. If you've got some ideas about all that, please let us know. And if you've
there's
made it
anything that
through
you're
all
interested-
this, thank you.
Hey, I don't know what we owe you, but we owe you something. Hey, good job.
We appreciate you letting us geek out and share this stuff with you, talk about. We've learned a lot just having these conversations, and there's so much more out there, and music is such a bountiful medium to explore, so we're looking forward to continuing onward with this stuff. So thanks so much. More to come, and as always, keep on rocking.